Disclaimer: all statements in this video are both speculation and opinion. Do not take any statements in this video and assume they are fact. Anything stated here could change at any moment. Don't listen to me. Cool? Cool. This script was written on the 12th of February, 2024 and expanded upon on the 23rd of February, 2024. Today I'll be speculating on the Opus Transcendences and its impact on optimal setups, going up the levels one at a time to try and make an educated estimation on how we'll be wanting to make grids in a post-250 world. Let's begin. Level 210 boosts the power of the second ability on the Opus, the Cap Up key. Each of these gets a minor benefit which matches the type of damage cap the key came with. Normal attack cap gains a flat amount of multi-attack, skill damage cap gets skill hit rate. Charge attack cap gains some special charge attack cap, and chain burst gains an amplification to faded chain damage. The first thing that should stand out is how these benefits aren't inherently balanced in the slightest. Normal attack and skill have incredibly negligible benefits, while charge attack and chain burst get more damage, which as we all know is the only thing that matters. This does make sense, as normal attack and skill have been the more common keys for a long time. Personally, every single one of my cap up keys on my Opus has been set to skill since Sabaha came out, with my ultimate carrying either normal attack or chain burst depending on the fight. Now that the Opus carries an additional benefit, it will be optimal to put specific keys on each of the two weapons instead of blindly sticking the 50% skill cap onto everything. Going from the top, the previously pathetic 15% charge attack cap up becomes far more enticing, and the chain burst cap seems nice for V2 fights, but would probably lose to the charge attack cap up in almost every setup. The normal cap up's flat multi-attack is nice for very specific low-click setups which require boosting the multi-attack of a certain character to guarantee triple attack, but is otherwise not particularly notable. The skill hit rate is sure a thing that I have no comments about. Whether this will actually change anything is another question, but with the numbers currently available, the answer is probably no. This key is set to get an additional buff at level 240, so to comment on that, take it away from here, future me. At level 240, these additional bonuses are just doubled, as expected. This totals to 5% hard CA cap for CA key, 20% faded chain cap for chain burst key, 10% skill hit rate for skill key, and 5% double and triple attack for normal attack key. Unless you're the world's biggest Summer Azusa fan, you'll probably be good on the skill key's hit rate, so expect to see it put on Ultima weapons instead of the Opus for optimized setups. Nothing really fundamentally changes about the keys other than it being a little bit more optimal to use some keys on Opus than it was before. Hopefully you have enough mats to shuffle things around. Additionally, at level 210 the Opus gains the ability to slot in 3 new keys: Divine Ruination, Divine Honing, and Divine Fathoms. These skills are only active when the grid is boosted by either 280% Omega or Optimus by summons and weapons, which limits the number of summon setups that are possible. Currently there are 3 ways of reaching this number. You can either use double-sided Omega summons, double-sided Optimus summons, or embrace your inner whale and use a single-sided Optimus alongside a fully uncapped 6D summon and 3 copies of an Optimus Exalto weapon to get to 280%. A Primarch isn't currently required, meaning that both Wind and Fire can achieve this. These skills all give a 40% EX modifier and 7% cap up alongside stats that are divided into normal attack, skill, and charge attack. Ruination, the normal attack key, gives a large amount of multi-attack and grants 10% special normal attack amplify. Honing, the skill key, grants 30% special skill cap and 10% special skill amplify. Fathoms, the charge attack key, grants a 100% chain burst amplify, 100% faded chain amplify, and a 10% special charge attack amplify. Overall, all of these keys are extraordinarily powerful, and will likely replace the key currently used in most setups outside of Falsehood. Falsehood is still on shaky ground though. Firstly, we'll be going over the requirements. Currently a large number of setups use a boosting summon and an elemental summon for their main and friend summons, but I can see this changing for some setups. The only setups that I don't see using double primal are burst setups and auto-based FAs. Burst setups generally use their main summon as a component to blasting as hard as possible and are based off of stacking numerous buffs to normal attacks, which also coincidentally have these nice Optimus Exalto weapons to use. The real question is which weapons to replace falsehood weapons for elements that used it as a main hand. Water, Dark, and Light have easy answers in their illustrious weapons, but the other three elements aren't as lucky. Auto-based full auto setups are similarly not tied down with the requirement to run 2 boosting summons, making things like Lucifer a good option for clearing debuffs from GW. As for skill and charge attack setups, it's hard to see a world where with the current weapon archetypes that they will avoid going double boosting summons. This could always change if a second set of charge attack or skill-focused Optimus Exalto weapons are released, but honestly, I can't imagine many people using those weapons anyway. As for the keys themselves, normal attack granting a large amount of multi-attack further assists and low-click setups that want to guarantee triple attacks. The skill key granting a large amount of skill cap up is powerful and is likely a different cap to the normal skill cap, but unfortunately it's hard to tell. In the grid calculator it has its own category, so the assumption is that it's separate from the normal skill cap. The charge attack key grants a massive boost to chain bursts and faded chains and is generally applicable to charge attack comps, making it an easy slot that is mainly contested by the skill cap, as they'd likely see usage in similar comps. All of these are viable options, and the choice will mostly just come down to comp, as the amplification is the main reason you'd want to use these keys anyway. One annoying thing that I'm sure many endgame players will quickly find is that they want to be using their primal opus for most things, but they'll constantly be wanting different keys for their endgame comps and their regular comps, because Lord knows I refuse to play without the amp from the opus's first skill. I suppose that's one way to keep the raid alive. However, it's also important to think about what this key is replacing. The most common slot in for non-falsehood setups is stamina, as this consolidated an additional generally applicable damage modifier into the opus, which freed up a slot for another weapon. Now that this might no longer be the case, the stamina grand weapons are suddenly looking a lot more attractive, and if I had to hazard a guess, one copy of these weapons will become mandatory if going primal into an element. Well, more mandatory than it currently is. For wind and water players. Good luck? As for level 220 and level 230, these upgrade the first skill. Level 220 is nothing special, being a slight bump in stats, with the only real effect making Ramfea slightly less awkward to fit with clams. It's still bad, don't buy it. Level 230 adds a generic boostable amplify to the skill, which further encourages boosting summons. When boosted by 280%, the amplify is 6.65%, which isn't huge, but it's not to be underestimated either. Just think of it as another way to incentivize double boosting summons. Overall, this skill hasn't changed too much. Let's ask future me if level 250 changed that. At level 250, the Opus gains the ability to be leveled to skill level 25, and now has an unworldly Oogie. Assuming that the third key is one of the new unboostable keys, the skill level will only benefit the Opus's first skill. According to some early numbers that I haven't confirmed myself, the Majesty goes up to 24% and the Seraphic goes to 2%. With the 280% required for the new keys, that brings you to a 7.6% amplify, which is moderately better than the previous 6.65%, but isn't game-breaking in any sense of the word. What's far more appealing is the unworldly charge attack, which makes the weapon a fantastic main hand, as on top of all of the smaller customizable effects it already grants you, it also does a lot of damage. Not much more to say on this one. Unworldly Oogies are fantastic. The final thing I'd like to note is the future updates that are ahead. I've already mentioned overcap, so I'll tackle that first. Currently, with primal setups, it's quite common to hit the cap on a few stats. The ones that I personally run into are damage cap and health. The health cap in particular is quite irritating, as I'd love to run double-sided Zeph for Hexa and be free of my set D Spade, but I hit the health cap incredibly early thanks to the addition of the draconic weapons. For other notable stats, that cap is relatively easy to hit, There's EX Special and Debuff Resistance, if you're freaky like that. It has been stated that in the future there will be game systems that grant some kind of benefit for any stats going above the cap. If I had to guess, there'll be simple stat increases along the lines of plus marks. However, if I were to get conspiratorial, this would be the perfect opportunity to increase the caps on some stats, namely the HP and debuff resistance caps. Please, Cygames, make my Vortex of the Void actually useful. I'm sure Luwo fans would also appreciate 50% debuff resistance in the grid. The second future change is the Primal Transcendence that is to be released on the anniversary. Although this will definitely have some sort of impact on grid building, the real question is how much. If the Primal Transcendence increases to 160%, the 280% threshold can be reached with 2 copies of the Optimus Exalto instead of 3, with the third replaced by a Primarch Sub-Aura. At 170%, 3 Exalto weapons and a Primarch Sub-Aura can reach 280% with no 6D summon needed. You get the idea? If other stats are added other than the boosting component of the summon, there's no limit to the speculation, so I'll hold back for now. For those who are primal in water, earth, dark and light, I'd be sure to look out for your Optimus Exalto weapons. For those who are dedicated Magna fans, I am praying for you that Magna 3 is good. Lord knows I'll never be a Zeus player myself, I'm right there with you. Bonus prediction. If Lord KMR and FKHR are feeling particularly evil, they'll release an Optimus Exalto with an Echo-like Fire God and Overrider before GW. Even more evil if the character is Dark's Primarch. If we add the final evil of Ereshkigal on top, we could potentially get a grid that looks like this. We've got our 2 PNs, of course. Eresh and Ultima are axes, bringing us to 4, which is enough for Eternal Signature. With our Opus and Fallen Sword, that brings us to 4 slots left. We'll be filling half of these with Eternal Signatures and half of these with this theoretical Dark Overrider. Assuming we have a fully uncapped 6D summon and a Primarch in the back of the comp, we're reaching 300% boost for Optimus modifiers, which would be even higher with Hades Transcendence. If we're using the Divine Dark's Ruination key on our Primal Opus, we'd get a total of 20% cap up, 14% special cap up, 20% normal attack cap up, 30% normal attack amplify, 10% special normal attack amplify and 25% seraphic amplify. On top of that, we still have the boostable amplify from Opus and the echoes from 2 copies of Dark Overrider, which at 300% are 8% amplify and 36% echo. I'm sure it could go higher, but you get the point. Dark GW might be a bloodbath.